When Games Workshop does something we're not a fan of, we tend to call it out, but it's only right that when Games Workshop does something that is good and nice, we should also commend them for that too. That's why today we're going to be talking about the new Cerastus? Look, it could be either. I'm sure it's been said out loud by someone who knows, but let's face it, mispronunciation is part of Warhammer 40k and a core tenet of this channel, and if you've been around for any length of time, you'll be used to it, and if you're not, it's not going to get any better. These are the models in question. I don't know if this is one kit or two. I'm assuming two different kits, given that the Lancer is its own kit, and these guys have got some different shoulder pads, and they also have something important in the form of ammo feeds, which we will talk about in just a moment. But one of the great things about this particular type of knight is that it's way more posable. It does have locating pins in the legs for the joints, but you don't have to use them, so you can pose these really easily, especially compared to the older style of knights. I say older, the Questoris Knights. You've got the Gallant, you've got the Warden, you've got the Paladin, the Knight Crusader, the Knight Errant, and the Knight Preceptor, which can also be built as the Canis Rex, I believe. Look, there's quite a few of these, but there is a slight issue with them in that they all have the same leg pose, and it is not easy to change that pose. It's just a faff. You've got to do cutting, you've got to do messing around. Just having one of these standing with its leg slightly raised on some sort of tactical rock, you might think, is quite an endeavour. Same thing with the Chaos Knight as well. The Chaos Knight Ravager and Rampager, I think are the two, and there's another one, but I can't remember the name, who cares. They have basically one pose from the waist down, and that's it. And that's something that's kind of stuck with me a little bit, having put together a few knights in my time. See, the knight chassis as a whole are ripe for conversion. They're big, there's a lot of open space, you can really transform knights into various different monstrosities if you really want to, which is a real positive for the kit, but when it comes to basic reposing, it's extremely lacking. Now, when it comes to a squad of 10 Space Marine sized guys, for instance, having repeated poses isn't the best, but it also isn't that noticeable, especially if you're fielding quite a force of them. You know, models tend to get in the way of each other, you can't see all of them in perfect detail, and as such, the repeated poses, whilst not perfect, aren't necessarily a deal breaker. For me personally though, things like the Imperial Knights and the Sons of Behemat as well have a real issue in that you only field 4 maximum of a particular type anyway, and at that point the repeated pose on the legs becomes really jarringly obvious, and I do not like it at all. That's one of the reasons I really like the fact that when they did the Cerastus Knight in plastic, they made sure that it was nice and posable. But it's not just that. It's not just the fact that they're more posable, these newer ones, it's also the fact that a certain element that was seemingly overlooked for the Questoris Knights has not been overlooked for these. Now, one of the coolest things about these knights when they're in resin was the fact that you have these big old ammo belts going from the guns to an ammo hopper on the back of the knight. I love that. And when they first showed off these knights in resin with those ammo feeds, I immediately thought to myself, oh man, the fact that Questoris Knights don't have those is incredibly jarring now. How many shots are you getting out of an Avenger Gatling cannon before it runs out of ammo? I mean, it's got nothing. There's nothing going into it. Do you fire it twice and then you have to go home and reload? Like, it's just one of those things that isn't necessarily missing, or at least you don't know that it's missing until it's pointed out. And one of the things I love about these is the fact that you have got that just that added bit of realism, I guess. And of course, to go along with that realism is the fact that the melee weapons they're holding can't really reach the floor. And as such, quite a lot of stuff not in danger from them when it comes to close combat. But we don't need to worry about that, who cares? They can kick stuff, whatever. At the end of the day, a giant mech with a big old sword, or a big old chainsword with guns sticking out of the top of it, is cool. So, is it that important? Not really. Now you're going to tell me that the ammo feeds aren't that important either, and that if I'm happy with the swords not being particularly the right length for how tall the thing is, then I shouldn't care about the ammo feeds. But in my defense, shut your face. The thing is, it's not just the badass ammo feeds that these things have got. Oh no, it's the fact that they are posable ammo feeds. Oh lord. It's so good. They didn't need to do this, frankly. They could have had the gun be not that posable. I would have been okay with it. I wouldn't have been thrilled, but I would have been like, yeah, I can see why you did that. But they didn't do that. Instead, we have extremely, not complicated, but Jesus Christ, they look so fiddly. They look so fiddly to put together, the ammo feeds. But then again, it means you can have the gun moved and tilted and twisted, and the ammo feed actually moves as well, and it's not just stuck in one position, which again would limit the posability of the kit. They've actually made it so that each knight could have things in a different position, and you wouldn't have to jank it up to make the ammo feed fit. That is... oh, you could say it's the bare minimum. I don't think it is. Genuinely, I think the bare minimum would have just been to provide it in a couple of pieces and to make it so that the gun has to be in a certain position. But they didn't do that. They made it so that one of the coolest things about these models is also customizable. I mean, look at it. It's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty, and it can be positioned in any beautiful way that you want. It's a genuinely cool way of doing things, and just means that you can actually do what you like with it, as opposed to being constrained in the same way that you are with the Questoris Knights. And that's what makes me happy. It's the fact that there are things that I don't like about that old kit that have been fixed with these newer Knights. Would it be nice if the old kit was more posable, if we did have things like ammo feeds going from the guns into hoppers on the back? Yeah, it would, but it would also require a redesign of that kit, and I'm pretty sure that that would add an extra 30 quid onto the price. The real disappointment would have been if these Cerastus Knights were shown off and launched, and they had all the same limitations as the Questoris Knights. Because of the Questoris Knights, the biggest criticisms that I see really are the fact that they are not that posable, that they lack some of that cool factor that the Cerastus Knights have. And they could have gone, well, we're going into plastic, this is a way to streamline, this is a way to make things easy. And they didn't do it. Instead, they gave us options. And given how often we berate and go after GW for not giving us options, I think it's only fair to point out when they do give us those options. Anyway, at this point I've been recording for nearly 20 minutes, and a good 10 minutes of that has just been coughing. So once again, I'm going to go and lay down in a darkened room, and I don't think I'm going to... I might just hibernate. Give it like 48 hours. Just all sleep. That's not physically possible for me. I can't do that. Be nice though, wouldn't it? Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. You know the drill. There's a link for Element Games in the UK and EU. There's a link for Noble Knight Games in the US. If you want a cool t-shirt, you can click the link in the description and you'll get 10% off, which is quite a good deal, to be fair. I will be back tomorrow for members, so keep your eyes peeled, and I'll see you for the next one.